It's basically just the complete control, based on natural authority of the entire government with no freedom. That's what fascism. I mean, fascism. I can. That's out of my how I'm defining it here right now. But here he said fascism is a far-right authoritarian, ultranational political ideology that suppresses opposition, promotes dictatorial leaders. It rose to prominence in the early 20th century with the regime of Benito Mussolini. But Benito Mussolini was a communist, and Adolf Hitler. That Benito Mussolini was a communist. Here he's saying that supposedly it's a right-wing movement, but when it comes down to that, I don't think that's the case, because you can say that Stalin was basically an authoritarian. Let me see. Let's see if we can bring some context. Ultranationalism. That's what it says here. Dictatorial leader. Militarism and violence. Suppression of opposition. Social hierarchies. Scapegoating and anti-democratic. Yeah, we don't have that. That is not even close to fascism. That's not even. That. Social hierarchy. Yeah, the United States not even close to that. You can, yeah. Yeah, the Constitution
right
doesn't
now
allow
we have
it.
Gavin Newsom, for instance, who's saying that he's going to overstay the election, that his entire purpose is to have a third term. He's coming to take all of your rights. This is a unison party message.
Yeah, and I agree with all of this, by the way. But to be clear, you're saying that
Yeah,
this
the
is
law is the law. There's nothing wrong with that. If you think that fascism, there's something wrong with it. In order for us to just have a very well-rounded society, we need to apply the law, even the most simple laws. Here, in order for us to have a country of law and order, we have to start applying the most simple laws.
explicit call to violence, despite all the people saying that this is an electoral solution that we have.
No, let's untangle the argument, because there's multiple stages to it. So step one, that in and of itself would not be considered a call to violence as such. However, what it's trying to do is energize the base towards in-the-street protest and move them towards the idea that Trump is here to take all of your rights, take everything away from you. He's an authoritarian. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's all of these various things. That then goes down to the governor level, goes down even to the state level, and it goes to the pundits on MSNBC, CNN. They begin to regurgitate the same exact things. And yes, the idea is to motivate these people who have a very mentally ill base to go out and conduct political violence. It does seem to translate that way. Every time I see them out in the street, they seem to be doing violent shit. I don't know what to tell you. 2020, the summer of love, they were out there doing violent shit. The protest we just covered that happened in California, out there doing a bunch of violent shit. The Portland protest that we just covered, also doing violent shit, fighting in the streets. They were trying to provoke the cops. It's like, what do you want me to do? Every time I look at the street and there's a bunch of leftist protesters, that seems to be accompanied by a bunch of fucking violence, and the media saying, it's fine, it's good, it's all.
No, that's what detention camps. It's not concentration camp. No, to be honest, they're getting treated very well. Air conditioner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, beds. Nah, they're getting treated very well. Nah.
My question is, let's just assume for a second that
they could have been worse. They could have just laid them. They are legal immigrants. You see what I'm saying? If the United States decided to just put them outside in fences, no air, no building, out, exposed to nature, they could have done that. They're legal immigrants.
Was a fascist, and a bunch of people who were fighting against this fascist had a mentally ill.
They're human beings. I understand they're human beings, but we have a country of law and order. This is a country of law.
Would it then be irresponsible of them to accurately describe their opponent as fascist, because ultimately some of the most mentally ill and fringe people on that base would then go and commit violence that you think is bad? Or how would one deal with that if they truly didn't believe that their opponent was that?
So contextually, right, if it's the case, there's an actual Nazi who's in office, okay, who is trying to bring back the Third Reich, and it just so happens that you're motivating your base against an actual Nazi, and some of them are mentally ill, yes, of course, there wouldn't be any problem with that. The whole point then would be to overthrow, though, wouldn't it? Wouldn't the whole point of that be? Hang on. Wouldn't the whole point of that be that you're motivating this base against this Nazi to do what? Good things to him? Do you want him to do good things to him? Like, what do you want him to do to him?
If you truly thought that there was no possible way for you to do this through the system, then yeah, why would you be out there getting people to canvass? Why would you be out there telling people, go register to vote? Why would you do anything other than, hey, we need to mobilize our little infiltration?
Hang on, here's the thing that's really funny. It's like, yes, there's one branch that does that, and then there's other branches which seem to motivate people to shoot political commentators, take shots at the President of the United States, beat people in the streets, set cars on fire, set buildings on fire, and are very unapologetic about it, and are continuing to organize yet another No King's Day nationally to do even more of this shit. So the thing is like, again, I'm going to throw this back to you because I answered in good faith. Yes, of course you would motivate your population, but motivate them to do what? You're not going to be motivating them to do good things to the Nazi in charge, are you?
Well,
let him answer. Let him answer, dude.
This is something that I agree with most of the politicians in the way that they're classifying Trump as a fascist. I think Nazi is obviously too far. He's not that. But calling him,
well, they're not going to do good things to the fascists, right?
And I'm saying, look, guys, if I thought this was a non-electoral solution, there was no electoral solution here, that you had absolutely no other option, kind of like what Trump did in January 6th and saying, hey, your country failed you, Mike Pence failed you, I would say, yeah, maybe we should go do a violence. But obviously, I don't think we're there yet. I wouldn't be having this debate if I thought the only option was violence. So when we look at like the BLM stuff, and we look at the way the Democratic politicians, whether it's Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and say things.
You say that we're supposed to make our government as fair as possible. I don't think that's so. I don't think that's the purpose of government, right? I don't think that's the government is basically like a referee, but I don't think it's there to make things fair. Yeah,
like,
that's not the government.
There's no place for violence. There's no place for looting.
What happened is, if you get into this argument of fair or not, you start doing what a lot of these Democrat politicians are doing, which basically is just to make sure we can just create a better playing field. Let's just give affirmative action to those minorities, and these people that always have done much better, let's just make sure we make that harder for them to get jobs or enter these universities or get the opportunities. Doesn't work like that.
Or destroying property, or burning churches, or destroying businesses.
That's kind of their whole thing. I don't think so. I don't think that's the government just making sure that it's not fair. It's make sure that laws that we agree as society are just defended without us trying to, let's put it this way, not cut our not to delete ourselves. No, that's not what. It's not fair, right? It's just make sure that we can live peacefully with each other, but it's not fair.
Et cetera, constantly condemning this. I don't understand how you can say, well, by accurately describing this person the way that they believe him to be, and then saying also don't commit violence, we can win this electorally. This is somehow necessarily going to result in violence only because there are, I guess, a disproportionate amount of mentally ill people on the left wing. It doesn't particularly make sense.
I'm sorry, aren't you a person who believes in the idea of dog whistles?
Yeah, but it's not a dog whistle.
Okay, so hang on. So you obviously politicians aren't going to come out directly and go, "Hey guys, you need to start killing right-wing politicians, and you need to start killing like, right-wing political commentators."
Priest,
yeah, they would say things instead like, "This person is trying to, I don't know,
like hell." I mean,
they're trying. Hang on. Hang on. I'll engage with you. Let me finish the point.
I'm almost done.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Almost done, bro. Almost done. So, like, saying things like, oh, Donald Trump is trying to mobilize the military so that he can declare martial law and exist for a third term. Yeah, that's not really in the domain, I think, anymore of, like, we're just trying to motivate our political base to get out there and get charged to vote him out. How do you vote a person out who you're claiming is trying to stay for an additional term by using the military? How do you do that? You don't do it. So the whole point is Yes, I think that there's a bit of dog whistling going on there of, hey, he's an authoritarian fascist who's trying to overstay his welcome in the Oval Office, and he's prepared to use the military to put you down. So we need. So
if millions and millions and millions of people are unable to follow the law, you think it's a problem with the people and not the law? I don't know what you mean by that. Yes, explain.
Need to really get these guys because they're a bunch of fascist Nazis. That's very much what the call is right now.
Yeah,
yes.
I think if they said that was the only thing that's going to happen, I think saying he may try is much different. But I would agree that if they said Donald Trump will definitely 100% do this and he's not going to leave office, he's going to use the military to crack down, I would say
that's
yeah,
what Newsom's saying.
No, he's not saying that's exactly definitely. He's saying there's a good chance.
Oh, come on, man.
The difference being that there's a
I'm 87.5% sure that he's a Nazi who's trying to take power.
Can I please respond? So the difference being that there's all these other avenues that we've explored that Trump is also trying to explore that may not involve the military, such as changing the 22nd Amendment or running as vice president and then having J.D. Vance step down. He's talking about all sorts of other avenues, and it's like, okay, there's definitely this guy has demonstrated in the past that he does not want to leave office. He tried to, use false electors to stay for a third term, but we still defeated them electorally in that because the guardrails held, thank God. So saying that, if this was the only option, maybe that could be potentially a dog whistle, but clearly all of these Democratic politicians are not operating under the assumption that violence is the only option.
So I mean, what level of surety you would actually need Gavin Newsom?
No, what you're doing is blaming the most exploited people for their own exploitation, but completely ignoring the people doing the exploding. I don't understand what you're saying. Like, what are we? I want you to explain to me, what are we supposed to do? Yeah, what are we supposed to do here, man? Now, because if that's the case, so we just basically just bring the third world, just take over and just do whatever the hell we want with the first world. Give them the paperwork. No, man. Okay, I agree with you. Give them the paperwork in your country. Fill out all that paperwork in your country. And we have to make sure that you are an asset to the country. We always have. It's how we got into a superpower. No. We got into the superpower because we got the best of the best. No. And remember, you cannot compare the country that we had to what we have right now. We used to have we used to be 90%, 98% European, which is a very common culture. Even if you live in Italy, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, England, Eastern Europe, Sweden, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, it doesn't matter. We all have a common culture. Now we're bringing people that don't have our culture, and they're taking advantage of the empathy of the European mindset. That's not okay.
To be like, hey, everybody, I'm 100% sure this Nazi's trying to overstay his stay in the Oval Office and use the military right now to suppress people. So what? What does he have to say to convince you that he means what he's saying?
I think if you
can you provide an actual quote that you are using?
Against
I can provide an entire video clip of this.
Democrat politicians refuse to condemn it and say, you know what, maybe this should happen more. I think that would be more of an indication of, yeah, they want more of this to happen. But at every single step, at every opportunity, they condemn this violence over and over.
Yeah.
And
meanwhile,
over
all the influencers are dancing after Charlie Kirk dies. We go to TikTok for the follow. We go to TikTok.
The influencers and not talk about the actual politicians.
Hang on a second. Didn't I just tell you that this is a tiered system? I walked you through the entire argument, and you said, and Soy, hang on, Soy, you said, Soy, I largely agree with your assessment there. Those were your exact words.
I do largely agree, but again, when I bring
so I don't know what to tell you.
Left-wing politicians are overwhelmingly condemning this, and you say, well, these influencers with a much lower reach aren't, and it's like, okay, well, are you going to address the fact that...
Yeah, there's a line. There's even a line where you live. You say there's no line. Yeah, even where you live right now, there's a line. There's an understandable line that we all agree in society that is yours, even where you live right now. Because you say no line, that means that anybody in your own space can come. You take your space.
We're already talking about the inequality between the left and right.
Oh my God! Politicians are speaking out of both sides of their mouth. That's so crazy that a politician on the one hand says I condemn the violence, but on the other hand they go, oh, but wait a second, we're going to give you a place inside of this major metropolitan area to fucking riot. Oh, but we condemn the violence. It's like, what are you fucking talking about here, Soy?
Yeah, so you're setting up the idea that left-wing politicians giving permits and spaces for people to protest, which may turn violent at some point, is the same as them.
They let them take
advocating and perpetuating people shooting politicians and pundits and shit.
They let him take over an entire spot. He was finished. He was finished. You fucking idiot! Shut up. Now, by the way, Soy, yeah, did you see that? You see how I was right, doing everything wrong, right, and you're a dumb mod. So anyway, back to this, Soy, for you, just so that you understand, right? They took over an entire area of a city and called it Chaz Chop, said it was a neutral zone, declared it independent of the United States of America, and then had armed. Hang on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Yes, not only was it downstream of that, but it was very clear that the politicians who were in charge of said city weren't going to do a fucking thing about it, while at the same time they were condemning violence. It's like, give me a fucking break with this shit.
Can you like?
Oh wait, so it's interesting.
If I were to go and ask some of these like Chaz people, like who?
Yeah, Andrew's getting much better. And the thing is that what Andrew has in his favor, besides he's a very good debater, he understands logic. Most importantly, he understands how we got to this place as a country, as a civilization. He understands that, and also he has Christianity as a backup and the truth. The thing is, it's very hard to just go to the truth when you have a lot of half-truths, right? It's very hard to just go through a lot of the conversations unless you understand the line of logic.
Do their chazzing? Do you think it would be like a Hakeem Jeffries, a Chuck Schumer, a Joe Biden, the radical?
Again, I'm right now. I'm from the moratorium. I'm right now. I'm for re-migration. That's my position right now. Remigration, yes. People that came here with a green card, people that came here with visas and stuff like that. If you came here in, H1B visas and stuff like that, out. We have to just keep them all out. Out. And I will even go further. If your parents were born here legally, I will say we could just grant legal status to that kid that was born instead of a U.S. citizen. That's me.
Democrat left that inspired them to make a little stupid fucking square of
culture. Is important. Culture is very important. Culture is basically what the people use to express their way of life. Now, culture is very important. Okay. Not disappear, it's deported. Yeah, you have to deport it. Culture is just basically the expression of a society. Let's put it this way. Would you say German culture is much better than Indian culture? Christian King? Would you say German culture is much better than Indian culture?
A city and have a lawless zone, which was then cracked down on. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Cracked down on after how many weeks?
The left-wing politicians. Now, you might say that there are some left-wing governors or like super ultra progressive, attorney generals in maybe Portland or places like this that might actually agree with some of these crazy Antifa.
They don't just agree with them. They seem to be very assisting towards them.
Yeah, sure. Maybe even so. But the point is,
like in Portland, for instance,
as a totality of these parties, this is not something that Antifa is not aligned with the Democrats.
Yeah. The thing is,
there's a very strong ideological backing for Antifa and BLM.
Oh, no. Just see this. No. Okay. I'll grant you that. There's no vague better or worse about it. Okay. I'll grant you that. Where would you prefer to live? In Germany or India?
Democrats and the Democrats champion the Black Lives Matter. What are you talking about? This is what
you notice how you just jumped to the BLM thing, which is not what I'm talking about. I was talking about Antifa.
He said, he literally just said BLM was highly ideologically driven by the left. What do you mean he's not talking about BLM?
I wasn't talking about that. But if you look at BLM and the way that the left-wing Democrat politicians were responding to it, completely condemning all of this violence, saying rioting is completely unacceptable.